Hello friends, my name is John Ebersole and this is Stories of Hope, your weekly broadcast highlighting stories of hope for kids who need a family. Here we hear stories of hope, kids who are finding hope and kids who need hope. They desperately need hope and they're all in the foster care system and being served by LYDIA Home. LYDIA Home is a Christian-based ministry for children in foster care, and we live out Psalm 82:3, which tells us to stand up for the weak and for children without parents, to protect the rights of people who are poor or treated badly. Kimi Emery is our guest today, and Kimi is our Intact Family Services Supervisor. She has 11 years of experience in clinical social work, and she and her husband, get this friends, have recently become a licensed foster family to adopt in the state of Illinois. She has 3 daughters, one of them still at home, and an interesting fact is that she recently parachuted with one of her daughters and showed me pictures. So it's legit. It was pretty crazy. Kimi, tell us how you decided to become a foster family.
Last summer, the summer of 2020, I decided to memorize Isaiah 58, and in doing that, stumbled upon a verse that I've stumbled upon many times, but verse 7 talks about housing the homeless and feeding those without food and giving clothes to the naked, and then it also says don't turn your back on your own flesh and blood, which to me said bring kids into your home with your family and care for them together.
Wow. So God spoke to you through Isaiah 58.
Mm-hmm.
Powerful. What kind of difference are you hoping to make in the life of a youth?
After getting rid of a rescue mentality and a results focus image that I wanted to project, I realized that just giving somebody unconditional love, having somebody feel what that feels like, the safety of that, they're worthy of being loved, and belonging. That's what I would love to have a kid feel.
Wow, you mentioned something that caught my attention there too, after you got rid of the rescue mentality. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Saving isn't our job. It's loving who God places with us. And that, what if they don't turn out right? What if you bring someone into their home and it doesn't go well? That will get in the way every time. But if you're just loving someone who God's wanted you to love, then you're being obedient.
Wow, it sounds like my word, not yours, but it sounds like the control. It's that it's about control and wanting to, and for any of us who have children, there's that temptation that we want to control their outcome and how they are and who they are. And what I hear from you is saying that has to be laid down, surrendered, killed.
Yeah, because you got to get rid of the it's not about me. And that would be, how are they going to reflect me? I needed to get rid of that.
Yeah, because the Bible already says that they're made in God's image. So that's what we need to see. Wow, that's great.
Yep.
That is really good. So that doesn't sound like, oh, well, I'm going to get rid of this rescue mentality. That took some time, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I read, as I was reading, I learned that was a common pitfall people had, or common mistake that families getting into foster care realized that they had to get rid of. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, I'm a me too.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, that's a great thing for the people, because I'm thinking and hoping and trusting that people listening to this show are considering becoming foster families, or at least getting more information about that. And they're learning about how LYDIA Home is serving children and youth in foster care. And you may be wondering what you can do to help. As Kimi and her family are doing, they're becoming a foster family, and you're going to hear more about that as we go forward. If you're interested in getting more information, you can go to our website at lydiahome.org/hope. That's LYDIA home.org/hope. If you don't feel like you can be a foster family at this point, you can donate as well, because it's an expensive proposition to care for the kids that we care for and to provide the kind of experiences that they need. If you have questions about becoming a foster family, you can check out our FAQs that are there. And if you have questions that aren't answered today, you can email us at questions@lydiahome.org. That's questions@lydiahome.org, and we'll get back to you. We're grateful to have Kimi Emery, who is with us for Stories of Hope, who has gone through the licensing process to become a fostering family. Let's talk a little bit about what are the requirements for becoming a foster family, in addition to laying down the rescue mentality, which sounds like it's pretty significant.
That was, and a willingness to share every single thing about you and your spouse and your brothers and sisters and your family. There is a lot. It's the most extensive interview I've ever been through, interview process
Wow.
I've ever been through. I think what's required also is a risk-taking spirit. I like, as you mentioned with the parachuting, I like taking risks, and this.
Yes, you do.
This definitely struck on that same chord. I think also, as I went through the process and learned, I needed to be willing to parent in a way that's totally different from the way I parented my kids, and realizing that that's evidence-based and getting over the way I think I should do things and learning a totally different way, because it's a different type of child.
So it sounds like being willing and open to learn new things,
Mm-hmm.
in addition to the risk-taking, the willingness to share your life and just do life with these kids who are just desperately looking to trust, and yet at the same time have had their trust damaged, and so probably take some time to rebuild that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So that's an amazing process with that. Anything else about the process that or what is needed?
There
to
is a lot needed. It was a very long process, and I'm not saying this to discourage. I'm saying this because it has to be. I'm sure that it's lengthened over time.
We just don't want anybody to be able to
Exactly.
have a child.
There was fingerprinting for everyone in my household. There was background checking. There were home visits. Our adoption caseworker to our house, our visits to her office, tax return submissions, physicals for everyone in my household, interviews and physicals for my kids, buying fire alarms and replacing those, and fire extinguishers and ladders, and providing lots of references, and then reminding your references to respond to the emails, and reading, and over 40 hours of online training.
So it's a lot. It's a big commitment.
It's a lot.
And yet, when I was in Peru, there was a saying called "vale la pena," which means it's worth the pain, it's worth the trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you are committed and are all in with that. Anything else about the process that would be helpful for our listeners to know, Kimi?
When you get the certificate, the license, it's all the more sweet.
Oh.
When you realize what you went through. And I mean, when we were going through this, we did remind ourselves that that's nothing compared to what God did to adopt us.
Wow. Isn't that true?
Mm-hmm.
What he has done to and continues to do every day to extend himself and to pursue us. That's so good. Well, I know that generally the process takes 4 to 6 months, so I'm going to ask a question that I don't know the answer to with you, and that is, how long did it take you guys from beginning to having that license in your hand?
I do think it was about 6 months. I think that was right. I mean, the idea came in last summer, and my husband was on board right away, and I think we got it rolling in January and finished at the end of July. Middle of July. Yeah.
Yeah, so 6 months, 4 to 6 months, that's what it generally takes because of all those different aspects of the background check with the fingerprinting as well as the online training
Yep.
that you're able to do. You're able to do that training online.
Yes, you do
Those-
the online training, and then there's still some more training after that, but it's, yeah, you can do it all on your own time, which was nice.
Well, thank you, Kimmy, for sharing this, and we'll be back in the next segment. We're so grateful for you sharing your story of what's involved with becoming a foster home. Friends, this is Stories of Hope, your weekly broadcast, highlighting stories of hope for kids who need a family. My name is John Ebersole. Please come back on the other side of our break to learn more about hope for kids who need a family. God may be tugging your heart to find out more information about what it means to be a foster family, or maybe to donate. Like I said, the website is lydiahome.org/hope, lydiahome.org/hope, because everyone deserves to be loved, everyone deserves a home, everyone deserves another chance. There's always hope, friends, and you can be the hope to children in need. Wow, friends, it's so good to have you along for Stories of Hope today, your weekly broadcast highlighting stories of hope for kids who need a family. Here we hear stories of hope, stories of kids finding hope and kids who need hope. They desperately need hope, and they're all in the foster care system and served by LYDIA Home. Now, LYDIA Home serves over 250 children and families, and it's a Christian-based ministry for children in foster care, and we live out Psalm 82:3, which tells us, stand up for the weak and for children without parents. You also heard from Kimmy in the first segment about Isaiah 58, so some of you may have gone to your Bibles to look at that. Well, Kimmy Emery is our guest today, and she and her husband just recently were approved as foster parents. Kimmy, you also work at LYDIA Home in the Intact program, and you oversee that program. Tell us how you serve families in need in that program.
The Intact Department works with families who've been indicated for abuse or neglect and deemed to be safe together with our support. So we go into their homes weekly, and we kind of quarterback services that would benefit them and their kids, like counseling or parenting classes or substance abuse treatment or domestic violence services. We check in on the kids, we talk to them individually if they're old enough. If they're not, we check on them physically, and encourage parents to obtain medical help and educational services for their kids, and whatever else might be missing at that time.
So when you say indicated, that means that there's been a call that's been made to the abuse hotline that says, hey, something's not going on right here, and there's abuse or neglect going on. And if DCFS goes out, that's Department of Children and Family Services, if they go out and it's indicated that there is an issue here, that's when you and your team come in. I like that, quarterbacking the services. Because what you're trying to do is to keep kids from going into foster care. But some of those kids have experienced some pretty tough things. What are some of the needs of the kids that you serve?
Right, so first of all, to circle back on the last comment, the families, some that are indicated, go into placement, and that the ones that are not deemed going into placement, those are the ones that remain intact.
Oh, thank you for that distinction.
Some of the needs that these kids have would be stability, safety, clean environments, and very low standards of clean environment, counseling for the kids, medical visits that they haven't had, medical appointments, maybe if they have been medically neglected because they're high needs and those haven't been taken care of. Attending school. It was super easy to not log into school last year. That wasn't something that would be a hotline call for anyone, but it would definitely be something that we would encourage and check into, and we call the schools to see what their attendance is and stuff like that. Mental health assessments for some, some stuff simple as eyeglasses or diapers, or just maybe parents who communicate with their kids more openly.
So some of the families are just having trouble managing all that's going on with parenting the child or the children that they have, and sometimes they have their own issues that are making it difficult for them to deal with it. I know that in about 60% of the families that you serve, that there's either an issue of domestic violence or substance abuse or mental health of the parent, or a developmental disability with the parent. Is there a fifth one, or is it? Those are the main ones.
Those are the main ones.
So there's a lot of things that you're doing to help the families to better deal, to try to keep the family intact, hence the name Intact for the program. Well, that's great. You can hear that, friends, there is a battle for our kids, and we need you to pray. We need lots of people to pray for the kids and for the health and safety and homes that we have. If you need help, if you need guidance on, you can go to our website and you can download a one-page guide. You can go to lydiahome.org/hope, lydiahome.org/hope, and you can get that one-page guide, or you can fill out a one-page sheet to get more information about fostering, or you can give to Lydia Home and be a partner in that way as well. We also need volunteers, friends. We need volunteers at our main office that's located near the Kennedy and the Edens Expressways in the city. Volunteers to greet guests and direct guests that come in and handle packages, mail, phone, that kind of thing, and we'll do the training for that. If this sounds like you or a friend, please give us a call. You can call 773-355-5577 and ask for Melina. 773-355-5577. This is Stories of Hope that you're tuned into, your weekly broadcast highlighting stories of hope for kids who need a family. I'm your host, John Ebersole. Let's return to our guest, Kimi Emery, recently licensed foster parent. Kimi, what would you like to say to anyone who's prayerfully considering becoming a foster family?
I'll start with what I read this morning. Was in Nehemiah. I never thought I would answer this question that way, but I feel like maybe I read it on purpose for that.
Yeah, go for it.
Nehemiah kept what God told him to do between himself and God first. In this case, it would be between your spouse, probably if you're married. If not, then no. And he did not tell anyone else until he was solid in what God had told him to do. And that helped him disregard any negative comments he was then given about the job he knew God was calling him to do. Because there's a lot of people that are going to say you're crazy, or that'll say, I talked to somebody who did this and look what happened. But if we know that God's called us to do something, it's disobedient if we don't do it.
For sure. And it's going to be hard because kids are hard,
Yep.
whether they're biological or foster.
Yep.
If someone had told us, well, here's what you're going to have to deal with, here's all the things that are going to be troublesome, and how it's lifelong and all these things, that would be discouraging to anyone. But to hear about the joys that you provide, the way that you can speak and live life, to speak life and live life together with folks. Mm-hmm. So your advice is to keep it between them, their spouse, if they're married, and with God, and just to really get solid in that.
Yeah, go know that this is a calling, and that will keep you firm, when you're in the middle of it, and when you're hearing stuff from maybe family who completely disagrees with what you're doing.
That they think you're a little nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of stories in the Bible where people, where God calls people and the people around them think they're nuts. I'm thinking of Noah building an ark where there was no water around, and he took a lot of flack for a lot of years that he was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else that you would say to anyone who's prayerfully considering becoming a foster family?
One of the books that I read during this process was not assigned to me, but I heard it was a good one to read, and it was by Mike Berry. And he touched on that issue I had of results-based, and that we're not responsible for the results. We're just asked to love whoever God places in our paths. And in this case, it would be our homes. And we need others to walk alongside who are doing this same thing with us. So deciding to do it, knowing that it's a calling God's given you, and then finding others who are doing the same.
Find your pack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good, Kimmy.
Yep.
Get solid, get connected, yeah, get clear. Yeah, you could we could tweet that, except I don't tweet.
I don't tweet either.
No.
That would not be helpful for us.
No, it doesn't. Well, that's some great advice with that, to get solid in what the calling is, and to learn what you can, and to connect with other people. With that, there's a book by Mike Berry that Kimmy's recommending. Anything else that you want to say to our listeners today before we end?
I mean, if anyone is considering it, it's also not, you can try it. You know, it's not something for fostering. If it's adoption, yeah, you're committing for lifelong. But if it's fostering that you want to just try out, it's nothing, you know, you can go through the licensure and try it and see if it works.
Right. Well, we certainly have learned on other shows that the commitment is generally with fostering is 18 months, sometimes 2 years. Sometimes it goes longer than that, but 18, 24 months. And it is a commitment, but what a wonderful way to make an impact in the life of a child. And how wonderful it is to bring redemption and to bring life where there is pain and hurt. And like you said, that's what God does with us. He's adopted us and brought us into His family. What a great thing. Well, thanks, Kimmy, for being our guest today, and for you and your family stepping up and saying and responding to God's call to be a foster family and to bring life to a kid who needs a home.
And your whole family might not even be on board, and that's okay if you know God called you to do it.
That's great. Well, friends, you're learning about what it takes to be a foster family. You remember, go to our website, lydiahome.org/hope for more information. That's LYDIAHOME/hope. And you can also give and financially support what it is that God is doing through Lydia Home. Lydia Home is a ministry organization where we live out standing up for the weak and for children without families. Friends, you can make a difference. Remember, there's always hope.